Good morning. It's hot and muggy today. I'm still a little warm in my studio this morning. Time to time, I do what I call housekeeping. I do listen to my videos, and I can't rest with leaving something incorrect or less than completely correct. Now, forgive me if I've missed some that sharper listeners and watchers might catch, but this is what I call it. I think 2 or 3 videos ago, I talked about a favorite British early Buddhist teacher, and he was responsible for participating in forming the first group in England dedicated to the studies of Buddhism. And his name was Christmas Humphreys. And a favorite book, Walk On. But he wrote several. I believe this was the early 1900s we're talking about. But what's funny to me, what's ironic, what is worth noting is that I called him Christian Humphreys instead of Christmas Humphreys. But that just showed me how closely those two concepts, those two things, are tied into my psyche. I like to think that I celebrated Christmas as a secular holiday in the spirit of giving and sharing, rather than so in a secular sense, right? Rather than in a sacred sense as the hallmark of the Christian faith, the birthday of Jesus. And I know in early history that indeed this Saint Nick and all the celebrations, the trappings of Christmas, were actually not of Christian origin. And somehow they mingled and mixed, as many things do. So, not so separated into secular and sacred as I like to think. Now, moving on, I'd like to talk about things that changed after permanent awakening. And a lot changed. But today, I want to take a look at time. The traditional sense of time is linear. Seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. Linear, taking you from past briefly into present and on into the future as a way to talk about the passage of time, as a way mostly to measure, to quantify, thereby bringing some element, however false, of control to man. And these became so convenient that we took them for granted until something as earth-shattering, as soul-shattering, as spirit-shattering, and most importantly, ego-shattering experience, such as permanent awakening, would do big, huge changes. But the title of this chapter is "The Times They Are Changing," from my poet laureate, the Nobel Peace, the Nobel Prize winning for literature, Bob Dylan. A prophet of the 60s, he's sometimes called, and I see his role playing out in history due to his talent and his art and his finger on the pulse of the times they are changing. Bob Dylan is not only a prophet of the 60s, but I think he's a prophet for the ages. So if you will, 2 or 3 sessions ago, I quoted from the Bible, and I had to read it. So, trusty iPod in hand, let me find the lyrics, and I'll just read the first stanza. Come gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are changing. So thank you, Mr. Dylan. And the illusion of the ocean, one of my favorite recurring themes, sink like a stone. Better start swimming. Yeah. And being a water guy, a Pisces, a double Pisces, and I'd rather swim than almost any activity, but keeping afloat. Now the change in time was huge. My concept, my understanding of time took a quantum leap. And as I seek to share this experience, these changes that I've experienced in time, I'd like to first talk about speed, movement. We're on a tiny little blue marble, spinning on its axis, rotating around the sun, while our, what we call known universe, our universe, is indeed cycling around, rotating around as part of the Milky Way. And this motion continues, but it would continue in my favorite spiral. I didn't do a very good spiraling sense. So the spinning of the earth on its axis, the rotation around the sun, the rotation of our galaxy within a multitude of galaxies. And it even gets bigger. The scale can go bigger multi-universes. And indeed, I suspect that we're getting closer and closer in the study of quantum physics, to show, and it helps to account for a lot of the remaining puzzles about the working of the universe. And let me add, unnecessarily perhaps, that we know far less about anything than there is to be known. So this incredible speed is a little disorienting at first. It's like literally my head was spinning after the 2-day plus experience that I went through. May 2nd and 3rd, just celebrating my 5th year of awakened state. This disorientation was huge. Imagine that, first of all, recognizing that everything that you thought was so was but an illusion. Your fragile little sense of self that we do our best to prop up through our mind and our senses. Is gone, because it was a false precept, a false concept, a delusion is maybe the best word. And along with this is changing. The linear time no longer works. The speed that we're moving through the universe is I experience it on a conscious level. And at times, well, it's always very disorienting, but as time passes, it becomes the new normal. When I've talked the story about right after the initial 2-day mind-altering, life-altering, spiritual altering, soul-altering, you name it, it changed. And I spoke before of experience the time right after that as an infant left alone and naked on the cold, dirty concrete sidewalk. And this is my attempt to understand or to explain what happened. Our cerebral cortex, the top, our neck and our top of our spine, is designed as a filter. And we filter, a normal human being filters almost 99% of what we're receiving, the neutrinos carrying information, the cosmic X-rays, and all the... We are constantly bombarded. And without this filter, we wouldn't be able to function. If we got 100% of what's being aimed at us from the stretches beyond, past, present, and future, space-time continuum, the fabric of time, the fabric of space, all these things in our filter eliminates 99+%. And what I came to understand is that upon my awakening, my permanent awakening, which I did experience in progressive enlightenment. And let me stress that progressive enlightenment, a few people go straight to permanent, I'm told. Go straight to permanent awakening. But their karmic debt had to be minuscule, didn't it? But fortunately, I think in hindsight, the time of progressive enlightenment allowed some kind of preparation for what's coming. Permanent awakening or progressive awakening, the realization that occurs in either the process or the end game, it's all there. When you get a glimpse, what you glimpse is not just a part of it. What you glimpse is everything. And once you see it, there's no returning. And in my case, it seems that the time between progressive to permanent was way two things. The ego was fighting for its life. It was still listening to the mind other than for entertainment purposes. It still had a grasp. And the egoic structure would pull me back. But not completely. And the glimpse, you don't get a partial glimpse. If you get a glimpse at, oh, it's the whole enchilada. And I think that for me, it was really good to go through this process. It's impatient, as I found myself from being time to time, pushing it and say, okay, I know where it's going, I know where it is, I know there's no division, I know there's no separation, I know there's unity, that we're all in one, that I know resolve. I'm in the process of resolving duality and being able to entertain diametrically opposed viewpoints at the same time. Yeah, feeling that, but getting impatient and say, okay, let's get to let's finish this. Well, now I know there's no finishing. It just goes on forever. And our participation in grander scales awaits us as we reach this level of realization that's available in the human form. There's more. There's more. Nothing new, really. We've got it all. But it's being exposed to what is on a grander scale, for lack of a better way to explain it. So this cerebral cortex, this filter, now I'm estimating, 20/20 hindsight again, that perhaps I get 10% of what's bombarding us, each and every one of us, at every moment, or even sub-moment, if you will. About 10%. Which is still an overwhelming amount. But I think I was helped by the experience I told you of acquiring, being exposed to all the knowledge that ever has been, will be, and is. And I think this kind of stretches in the preparation of being open to accepting more. Or not even accepting it. Acceptance is one thing. Dealing with it on a day-to-day level is another thing. So here is an infant on the sidewalk. And what I've noticed is that I now measure space-time in a spiritual format, in a spiritual sense. And I found that it's been 5 years, and I found that each year, each previously measured year by days, by minutes, seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years, in this linear time measurement of time, in one spiritual year is 8, at least for me, 8 linear, physical, as we measure time and age now. So in 5 years, 5 times 8 is 40. So I feel like a 40-year-old man at middle life, spiritually. So next year I'll be 48. My second favorite number. I was born in 1948. I just love this 48, a 4 and an 8. Come up to me. Come up for me. And like every other esoteric science, numerology, there's something there. There's a lot of fluff and a lot of nonsense, but there's something substantial there because it has been through observation and passage of time that the significance of numbers. And spiritually, I'm starting to embrace the significance of numbers. But my favorite number is 33. Now, I'm speaking as a 40-year-old spiritual man. And it's comparable to the grasp, my grasp on the spiritual world is comparable to a 40-year-old man's grasp of the secular world. So there's room to grow. There's more to, not more to know. It's all known. It's more to the subtleties. It's more ability to see more clear. It's like looking at a horse and maybe you see, I'm wearing my glasses so I need some adjustment. Well, there's such a thing as spiritual glasses that will help you to ascertain, help you to see more clearly. I'm back to my iPad because I had jotted down, like I always did, some reminders of where I was going. So this concept of time and looking at it from a maturing, more sophisticated angle, I begin to see other changes in my relationship with time, such as sleeping. Historically, well, let's not go historically. In the last couple 100 years, humankind's sleeping patterns have changed significantly to accommodate the Industrial Revolution. Our systems needs us to be worker bees. We need to do labors, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. We need to work. And the system has been created that if we don't contribute to the political, social, economical paradigm of our times. Capitalism, consumerism, for me, for us, currently now. And we needed to sleep, this 8 hours of sleep. One of the biggest businesses out there now is helping with sleep. We, as a group, we suffer from what we're calling sleep problems. I remember when I used to wake up in the middle of the night and I would feel toss and turn and feel some anxiety about, I got to get my rest because tomorrow I have to work, I have to be a human doing. Not having much time, have to find time to do my real job of being a human being. But as a human doing, contributing, if I wasn't contributing to the system which I helplessly found myself, well, I'd be discarded. I'd be homeless. I'd be many things except what they wanted me to be. Upon awakening, your attachment to material things, as you've seen the oneness, have you seen the unity, have you seen the folly of personal goals, personal endeavors, personal desires? Have you seen the folly and the maya, the illusion of this? Well, material things don't have much hold. But as I went out consuming yesterday, I found myself having to buy a third air conditioner for our 4-bedroom flat. I'd avoided in one of the bedrooms where I sleep. I have fans, and I've done well. Well, we've had a real heat wave, and the wind has shifted. We're not having the gentle ocean breeze. We're having the muggy, stuffy weather for a week now. And I realized I'm not getting younger. How's that for a deep realization? And I've learned that I need to take care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally. As long as I'm in this body, I have to maintain it. Well, in the spirit, since I had my permanent awakening, I lost 40 plus pounds. Pretty rapidly it just fell off. Before I was carrying extra weight. And if you look at me, I'm still a bulky, kind of strong. I've got kind of flat stomach now, but broad shoulders and tend to carry body weight. But if you just put a rubber coat on me, much like a fat suit that people wear, that I carried most of my adult life and started contributing to as a probably preteen. But now I understand that I was insulated. I was insulating myself from people, from energies, from things, in sort of a self-protective mode. Didn't let anybody get too close. Because I had fears, the common fears of being not liked or rejected, worse yet, or not being able to connect with people that I desired to connect with. So this keeping the world at bay. Upon awakening, the fear is gone. And I could become my true self. So this is a physical manifestation that I experienced. Another one that I wanted to talk about is sleep. And I digress, I know. But I do that, so get over it. I experience huge changes in my sleeping patterns, which made me go back and do some research in the hopes of understanding what's going on. And I became what they call a bimodal or biphasal. 2 phases, 2 modes, two periods of sleep. A first sleep and a second sleep. And I found out, and high anxiety that I experienced at a younger age, pre-progressive enlightenment, the anxiety that I experienced of being awake, thinking that, gee, I need to go to work tomorrow, I need to get my sleep. And this is a motivation now that many people suffer this, what they've called a disorder, sleeping disorders. And Western solution to everything, of course, is medicinal, isn't it? Sleeping pills is a huge, I think probably number 3, high anxiety, blood pressure, statins, and sleeping pills are all part and parcel of life as we know it. But upon research, I saw that this pattern of sleeping was indeed embedded deeply in my DNA. Humankind had, until the last couple 100 years, had a sleep 1 and a sleep 2, biphasal, bimodal, 2 phases of time. And they used to get up, have meals, make babies, do whatever they could. They didn't have electric lights to turn on, put the lantern on. But they spent this constructively, not tossing and turning. They accepted it. Okay, sleep 1 is over. It's time to do something. And it usually was something gentle. They didn't go out and do hard physical labor. They might have a small meal, a cup of chamomile tea, and then go back with peace of mind. And because there was agriculture, they were closer. This is the cycle of life. This is the rhythm of life. They were tuned into the rhythm of life. So this suited them well. They went to bed as the sun set and got up to do their day's labor as the sun rised. And the rhythms and the cycles, it's only with artificial lighting, it's only with the demands of an industrial worker. We're all factory workers on the assembly line, no matter if we're doing mental or other kinds of work. We're slaves to the system, unwittingly, and we're taught to buy into it. And I started to tell you the story of it's hot, 4 bedrooms. I went out yesterday and bought an air conditioner because I know that my sleeping is, even though it's bimodal, biphasal, sleep 1 and sleep 2, I still needed this, and it's been disrupted, and it's been very, very disorienting to me. So I played the consumer game, but as part of maintaining my physical health, it's our responsibility when you do experience permanent awakening, and you do see the illusion, it does not for 1 second pardon you from participating in the world as it finds you. Real or not, does not matter. And it becomes very obvious that you need to take care of your health and emotional, physical, and mental health. Take care of your body. Take care of what keeps you in the human form. Even though we're in a time where we've been taught that what we do defines who we are. This human doing does not leave us much time for a human being. We need to consciously make time. I was reading about Adya when he talked about awakening in today's environment. He said, have a spiritual awakening on Saturday and Sunday and return to work on Monday. Well, I laughed. That's exactly what happened to me. Friday night through the weekend, and then Monday I was back to teaching at my university. He said traditionally you had time, people understood what happened. You had time to go in a monastery, to go in an ashram, to go in a cave, and people respected that you need some time for orientation. But, as I said, I had to teach. I had to keep doing. Even though I felt like an infant discarded, helpless infant discarded on the sidewalk. Well, this has gotten easier as my spiritual years have added up. My spiritual age. And one last thing to share with you about time. We've discarded linear time. And you don't have to go too many days without somebody reminding you of two things: mindfulness and living in the moment. And the irony in mindfulness is not lost on me, because mindful, not mindless, mindful living. But actually, it's a better term would be mindless living, wouldn't it? Except we have some baggage about mindless means random. It means without intellect and without purpose. And all those things are true, and true in the sense that only comes with understanding, but human doings. Can't imagine mindless as a concept to strive for. But even they're mindful, full mind, but they're using it to saying that empty the mind, to quiet the brain, to quiet your thinking, to quiet those mad monkeys in your head that are distracting you continuously, 24/7, right? So, when they're talking about mindful, they really mean a concept closer to mind, less mind, less thinking, not full, meaning more. And living in the moment. But what I want to tell you about living in the moment, that goes along with these mind-altering, mind-blowing experiences I've mentioned earlier, the concept of the realization of how fast we're going in the universe, how fast we're traveling, how unstable the solid ground that we think is beneath our feet. Also, being exposed, filtering out less and less of the information coming in. The moment slows down is how it seemed to me. The moment stretched. It was no longer this. It was a series of before and after that moment of time. So time expanded. And this is in line with our understanding of space-time continuum. We're getting closer, but there's a lot more. We know a lot less than there is to know about anything, for that matter. On any, whether we're talking cosmic or we're talking cellular or subcellular, subatomic levels, so much to be understood. But this expansion is almost a slowing down, because it seems to, a moment seems to take longer. And I don't know if it's about a better equipped to experience. All I know is that it has a profound effect. So be prepared. Try to imagine that everything that you thought was real turns out to be false. Your ego strives to hang on to whatever wiggle room you give it. Understanding that illusion, to understand that you're not separate, that we're all united. The slowing of time, the discarding of linear time, the exposure to more and more input. Just imagine for a moment, be prepared that this is what they talk about, earth-shattering, ego-shattering. Just be prepared. And with time, as with everything, it gets easier to deal with.